Hey guys. So this episode, welcome first of all. Welcome if you're new, welcome back if you are returning. Either way, I'm glad you're here. And this is Ascending with Tiff Talks 22. And I am Tiff. You can call me Tiff, but I'm Tiffany. But anyway, let's get started, y'all, because it's a lot to cover. And yeah, I feel like I'm so nervous. I didn't even realize how nervous I was or was going to be, but of course my body, so sensitive, started reacting, and I was like, damn, what is that? It's nerves. Look, I got angel number 707 right now, so they are with me. They got my back. But anyway, this episode was supposed to be about ego. If you followed me for a while, you do know that I strongly believe in mind, body, and soul, right? That our entire being is a system of intertwinings, right? Everything is connected. When I say mind, body, soul, I mean psychological things can show up in a physical way. Our subconscious mind rules how our soul develops, like a whole bunch of stuff, right? It's all connected. Mind, body, soul. That's what I mean by that. So, as I explored this chakra, the solar plexus chakra, I realized that I couldn't really just touch on ego, because this chakra just really governs a large part of our being that's not just ego. So just bear with me. I got to get through the regular stuff, like the informational part of it, before I get to the personal emotional stuff, right? So here goes. I wrote a lot of this down, but when I get to the personal stuff, I'm going to kind of probably freestyle a little bit more, because yeah, I'm not really a journaler anymore. I don't feel, but whatever. Spirit might say something different. But first, let's talk about chakras, right? So chakras are these various areas in our body. Like, your body is divided into 7. It's actually more than that, but the main ones, there are 7 various energy centers in our body. They're like psycho-spiritual energy centers. So they can be either blocked or overactive, underactive, or, balanced. But all of this, like I said, because mind, body, and soul is one, can show up in our lives in a physical way or an emotional or psychological way, right? So this is our third chakra that we're going to be talking about, the solar plexus chakra. It corresponds with the color yellow. So if you start, like, all of a sudden wanting to wear a lot of yellow, or you're super drawn to that color, there may be something there that you need to explore. That's just a heads up. But the third chakra is pretty much your whole gut, your whole gastrointestinal system. It's situated in the upper abdomen, the diaphragm, and the lower chest area, like right above your sacral chakra. And pretty much so close. The sacral and the solar plexus, for me, are super, like, connected. They kind of bleed into each other, technically. Yeah, I want to say it like that. Anyway, so some of the organs that are housed there are the pancreas, the spleen, the liver, the gallbladder, and of course both intestines and the abdomen. But if you're a highly sensitive person, know this: when you experience like certain gastrointestinal discomforts, your body usually has a message for you, and it may be time for you to explore or tap into what is going on a psychological level when you start experiencing abdominal discomfort and those things like that. But my ass is so stubborn sometimes. It took such a long time for it to click for me that my occasional bloat and other GI stuff was connected to some blockages that I needed to explore, right? But it's cool, because we here now, okay? So, we got that physical stuff out of the way. Let's look at it from a psychological standpoint. So, the subconscious is super powerful. I realize now that I literally wrote and speak and say so a whole bunch of times, but it's all good. Bear with me. This was tough. This is a tough ass assignment. But we're gonna get through it. But the subconscious is so powerful, right? It's built to protect us, right? Your whole mind is built to protect. But what I've noticed for me is that if something is perceived as potentially painful that's coming up or is going to come up or about to come up, then I kind of like develop an aversion to it. If you've followed me for a while, I did a video previously on the Sacral Chakra and my yoni steam, and how I started feeling those things that were about to come up with my sacral chakra. I started feeling it on a physical level before I actually did the steam. It was just eye-opening. But anyway, look for that video or the podcast episode. It's probably like 2 or 3 months ago. But that happened for me there, so I don't know why it took me so long to understand. But anyway, look back for it. It might be there. So Spirit had been nudging me for a while to move on to the solar plexus chakra, right? A long ass time. But whenever I would like get to that chakra, I'd tell myself, okay, it's too complex or it's too much work that for me to dig into that right now. So I put it off, right? But I really feel like my subconscious mind was trying to protect me from the pain of the emotions that were going to be uncovered. And why? Why would they do that? Because it can be so freaking tough to really look at, reflect, and kind of judge your own shit. Like it can be. It's definitely like having to judge yourself, right? But it's worth it. And if you're serious about your healing to becoming the best you, it is very necessary. Overall, in the end, it's worth it. But it's super necessary. So, from a psychological standpoint, the solar plexus is the chakra where your self-esteem, your ego, your personality are defined. And your personality consists of what? Your sense of self-worth, your self-confidence, your ability to be independent, your attachment to responsibility or feeling like you're responsible. So codependency, or independence or lack thereof, all of those things are developed and defined by this area, in this area. So and it starts to develop or really to be defined in later childhood, like right before puberty, pre-puberty, around that time, right up until young adulthood. Okay. So as we move into that time, this age in our lives, we kind of start to move toward finding a sense of our individual self, and you kind of move away from your family's actions and choices. So it's like you're maturing, you're growing into the young adult, the person that you are to become, but you're gonna base it off of what? The people you grew up around, the people you grew up with, the things you witnessed, what was going on in our society at the time, those things, right? So, for example, if you grew up in a family of alcoholics, as you mature, you may adopt or make the choice or decision to either repeat that same behavior where it's nothing for you to drink like a fish, or you might develop an aversion to alcohol because you're turned off by the idea of intoxication because of what you have seen in your family. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So anyway, our family, our school, our society in general kind of contribute to who we become. Our self-awareness is developed here as well. So we start to decide what or who is good or bad based on what we've experienced personally, right? And that also includes, of course, how we view ourselves. So and y'all know me, y'all might hear these pages turning, but hey, bear with me and just hear me out, okay? So when this chakra is like out of alignment, oh boy, you may have a hard time with your own personal power. You may give this power away to other people. You may rely on other people. You may have a hard time recognizing your own intuition and using your own intuition or trusting yourself. Whole bunch of stuff. Let's listen up. Let me give you an example. If you are raised in a strict household where you were forced to do things a certain way, even if you were thinking in your head, that's dumb, or I don't want to do that, or that don't match who I am, during this developmental time in your life, then you'll likely mature into a person that relies heavily on others to help you to make decisions. Why? Because you were never allowed to make decisions on your own. So this is how you can see where it would create codependency, right? And I, growing up, was the baby in the family, right? So I didn't have to do like a lot of chores or nothing. I was never really responsible for anything. That's funny, but it ain't funny. Like, it's a hindrance to your kids, you know what I'm saying? But, so if then that chakra is going to be in balance when it is time for you to be responsible in life. Now, understand this. It is not your fault. It is not a fault of the people who raised you or the things that you were raised around. It kind of just is, because a lot of these things are unconsciously developed, right? So if we're being honest, it was probably unconsciously placed on you by your family, by your teachers, etc. Let me tell you something that came up for me when I was going through and doing my shadow work. I thought back to the 6th grade. I had this teacher, right? And y'all, I was a super nerd. I will say that. I was a super nerd at Charles Rice. And so my grades were amazing. Like 98, 99, 100 on the report card. Like, I was that kind of student, right? But I remember, I don't know if you guys, if you're from the DFW area and around my age, they used to do these contests district-wide called the Math Olympiad and Computer Olympiad, right? And of course, it makes so much sense to me now, being the creative that I am, because usually if you're a super creative person, like say you're super artsy, then you may not be so good with math. But if you're super into numbers and you're a numerologist and you're good with that, then you may not be like super creative. You know what I'm saying? So it was kind of like that. But for me, I was pretty much an all-around good student. But math, and I don't even want to say this to claim it, because I feel like it's something that stuck with me. Math was never my strong suit. But guys, to get a 92, 94, 96 in math, I definitely not say that it was a weakness. You know what I'm saying? It just wasn't the 99s and the 100s. So let me give, for example, Computer Olympiad. We were in elementary school, going up against all the schools district-wide and beating high schoolers. Like, there was a written test that you had to take about the computer and the history of the computer. And then, what was the other kind of test? I just went blank. Oh, then like typing and all that stuff. So like, we was just smoking the high school kids. Like, we were really good. So in Computer Olympiad, we always placed and always did really well. But in Math Olympiad, it was like, not so much. But one day, I overheard the math teacher, I'm not going to say his name, even though I still remember this so very vividly to this day. But I'm gonna release that. It was part of my shadow work to release that. But I really want to just tell you this story because I feel like this is where I internalized a shortcoming that someone else saw in me, even though if you're looking at it logically, it wasn't a shortcoming because my grades were still decent, right? So I heard this teacher when somebody was talking about, how we were cleaning up in computer and whatnot. He said something like, yeah, well, she don't work that hard for me in math, and that's not her strong suit. So I internalized the shit out of that. I internalized that. And so I remember applying. I was up for an application to Hockaday School. It's like an prestigious all-girls private school here. And this was 6th grade, and we were about to go to middle school. and get ready to take this dang test, y'all. And I don't even think I did bad on the test. They just wanted my test score to be higher. But I feel like I so internalized that math was not my strong suit that it became not my strong suit. Does that make sense? So something that someone else said about me, I internalized it and made it my issue. Even up to college, I remember taking this math class, and I was in this math class with my sister, her best friend. I was tutoring them, helping them to grasp the concepts and whatnot, but then get to test day, and I'm like, how the hell did I get a 75? And I'm the freaking tutorer. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like it created something in me, and of course I didn't think about this then. I just left the damn class. I failed that class too, because I kind of quit after that. Because I was mad, like legit mad. Anyway, but I feel like in doing my shadow work and reflecting and looking back, that as early as 6th grade, hearing that teachers say that about me, I adopted his ideal, but really he was just mad because we weren't placing as well in mathematics as we were in computer. But we were still doing really well. You know what I'm saying? So this is how the people around you, their ideas can affect you and what you think of yourself and how you develop yourself. Just like this is the danger of social media, where kids are looking and comparing their bodies and themselves physically based on the things that they see in society that we tell them looks good or looks great. And then they internalize it like, what is wrong with me? Just like with ADD labels, ADHD labels. Before you let them slap this label on your kid, maybe your kid is supposed to be a free spirit. maybe they trying to turn your kid into a robot, and your kid is not supposed to be a robot. So anyway, that's a whole nother, ooh, child, I'll go off on that, but I won't right now. Anyway, I just wanted to give you that example of how this can unconsciously occur, right? So I feel like I adopted the narrative that, okay, I'm a weak mathematician. But be honest, like 94, 95, that ain't weak. That's decent. It's so funny because I saw a TikTok the other day, and I thought about this immediately because I was in the throes of shadow work. And on the TikTok, it was an Indian comedian. She is hilarious, by the way, but I feel like part of her is probably like this because I know that's prevalent in their culture. Her son walks in and he's like, "Mom, I got a 98 on my math test." Like, he was happy and proud of himself. She got the wooden spoon and chased him like, "Where the other 2 points at?" It's like, what? But this is the pressure that we put on our kids, and then they internalize it and put that pressure on themselves, and they're feeling bad because they didn't get 100, they just got a 98. But since when is 98 a just 98? Like, that's amazing, right? This is just for me to explain to you how this occurs. Anyway, that should have affected me for the rest of my high school career, even though, like, the degree plan that I was on, I didn't need math for very long. But, like, I didn't go the extra mile at all. Like, I ended up taking an extra math class just because. And when it seemed too difficult, I just was disruptive in that class. I was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm not trying. I ended up with a C in it, I think. Good old Mr. Morrow at Skyline High School. But anyway, I gave him such a hard time. I'm so sorry, sir. But that's probably because I already had an aversion to math because somebody had already told me, and I internalized that I was not good at math anyway. Mind you, this was a pre-calculus class. Anyhow, we're not going to even go there. But these are just parts of the things that are developed at this time. So your confidence is developed during this time. Your ability to be reliable is developed during this time, like I said. So if you're never given something to be responsible for, like I said, being the baby, I never really had to do chores. My sisters, well, I was going to say my sisters. My sister might not like to hear that, but she know, hell, she lived it. I just never really had to do as much as them because I was the baby. And I feel like that has played out into my adult life. But if you think about situations like that, it's easy to see how codependency is developed, right? It's easy to see how you would be reliant on someone else when it comes time for you to make an adult decision. Even though you're in your adult body, you're supposed to be matured. It's like I realize, like, spirit has really been, what do I want to say? Has really been working with me over the past year throughout my awakening, my ascension to a higher consciousness, has really been working with me to help me to develop a trust of myself. A trust of my own intuition, especially because it's so powerful. Like, my intuition is ridiculous. Like, it surprises me sometimes. But of course, it would surprise me because I never had to use my own intuition because my mom was pretty strict, you know. I lived in a pretty strict household. Anyway, this is supposed to be about ego, but as you can hear, so much goes on here. We couldn't just talk about ego. And I do want to touch on ego a little bit, so I guess I'll also tell you this story. Let me tell you about this guy, Collins, who plays for the Dallas Cowboys. And I don't watch the news, of course, so my mom told me about the situation, and I immediately thought, ego, right? So this guy, I guess he was trying to skip out on drug test, right? And he wasn't showing up for whatever reason that was, right? So he's skipping out on the test. He's not showing up. So they ended up saying, okay, cool. You just can't play for 5 games. So he decides to contest that, right? And they do him the favor, really, of dropping it down to 2 game suspension instead of 5. This man in his ego thinking, oh no, see, I already got away with it. I convinced him of that. I'm so smooth. Let me manipulate and try to convince them of some more. Nah, dude. Like, this is my thing. You were already missing that. There's probably a reason for it that is not on the up and up, not on the level, right? So for you to look a gift horse in the mouth and be like, I should be able to convince them to remove it altogether, I feel like that was ego. Like, nah, they can't do this to me. Why can't they? You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I just immediately thought ego. I had a friend who was dating a guy who she thought was like not as attractive as the standard person that she would date, right? So she was like, look at him and look at me. Like, I can't believe he would be cheating on me. He better not be cheating on me. But that is, again, that's your ego talking to you. That's your ego saying stuff like that. Cut to her and I, because I rode with her, of course, doing stakeouts, trying to see where he was after, she developed a close connection with him and they were committed and everything. Because, yeah, he did cheat, and he cheated a lot. You know what I'm saying? So that ego can be a whole little thing. But ego is not really a bad thing. It is, because we need it. We need our ego. It's our conscious self, which is, it kind of helps to keep us safe for the most part. But the problem develops when you grow overly attached to your ego. And that develops like other parts of our personality through your life experiences, right? It's how you interact in the world. It's how you kind of show up to the world as I or me. Okay. So I had to put y'all on pause just a second because I was about to turn too many pages even for me. But let me tell you this. Like, when I was doing my research, I noticed in my journal where I had written some statements previously. I think that I was going to share. I had been looking into commitment issues and the fear of them and whatnot. And I wrote this down. In order for us to trust ourselves, we have to reconcile with our past. Funny how that connects to the topic that we're on. I also wrote, when you know who you are, there's less difficulty in just being. But that's the thing. When this chakra is out of balance, that's how I say it, and you were conditioned and programmed in a certain way to believe or think a certain thing, then you're not going to know who you are, because all this time you've been busy being who? Your parents. You've been busy being who your teacher said you were, you know, not trusting yourself, right? I just wanted to throw those in there. So that is what I got through, right? This is where things take a turn, because I got to that and then I was like, Spirit, this does not feel deep enough. You know, what else can I look into? What else do I need to know? And so, of course, something that has been super helpful for me, my oracle cards throughout this entire journey is my tarot decks, right? And so I pulled my cards out and I just started asking them questions, you know? And boy, it was helpful because I got some in-depth responses. And so this is where I want to kind of tell you how to truly do shadow work. Like, it's one thing to look at it, and you really don't have to look at the who or why, because the fact of the matter is the past, you know, and these things happen. It's good to be aware of them, but it's not really to lay blame or to fault anybody. Like I said earlier, because your parents can only give you what they were given. So they're 9 times out of 10 going to raise you like they were raised, unless they too had an awakening and they realized how emotionally withdrawn they were raised to be, or they realized how affected they had grown and how defensive they had grown by the experiences in their own personal lives, the lack of support from the people around them. You know what I'm saying? So if, say, for example, you're a single parent and you don't feel like you have any support around you, your masculine energy is going to develop in a way that makes you kind of hard. You know what I'm saying? It might close you off to relationships and those things. It might hinder your ability to trust people. So those same fears of the past repeating itself and getting hurt, you are going to inadvertently pass that on to your children. People pleasing, it's in there. If when you're growing up, or you're in this development stage, I know a guy who is super materialistic. He's super flashy with his money, right? And I was wondering, like, why is that? I just really thought about it one day. Why is that? Because he probably learned as a young man or a teenager that self-worth is based in the things you have and not who you are. It's probably a direct example of something he saw. You know what I'm saying? Say he had a lot of money. Say he was raised in a family that was well off, right? Or that wasn't. It's such a fine line, which is why I say there is no fault, really. It's just the way it is. Because everything you experience in life, there was purpose. Like, it was supposed to be a certain way. But anyway, so your personal power is developed here. If you are used to giving that power away, because, say, you had a strict parent, or you had a teacher that did or governed every little action for you, then you're going to get used to having to rely on somebody else to help you do certain things. And when you do that, certain things, all things, most things, and when you do that, it is going to create an imbalance in you, because you're not relying on or trusting yourself. And I feel like a core necessity to us being human is individuality. It is freedom, right? But if you are controlled by someone else, that is a complete contradiction to who it is you were born to be. So also self-criticism and judgment is born here. I was asking Spirit, like, what do I really need to look at self-criticism and judgment. Now, how would that be? How would that be? I am super, super, super hard on myself. And I was like, why? Well, if you grow up in situations or environments where these people are super judgmental of themselves, or they may be hyper aware of how other people think or look at them, then they're going to project that onto you. Like, oh, don't do that because this. I remember not the other day, it's been a little while. I was walking into my mom's house and I was just singing from the car. First of all, because music is life. I'm just singing from the car, walking toward the house. And I get to the door. I'm knocking at the door, singing or whatever. And my mom's like, cut that singing out. And I was just running in to use the bathroom or something, I think. She's like, quit that singing. And I was like, I looked at her like, really? I said, no. And I kept singing and went to the bathroom. Because it's like, why? And this is another thing, too, that we do to our children. We tell them, like, it's better to be seen and not heard. Who the hell made that rule? Who made that rule? Some adult who was tired and didn't want to be bothered with their kids. You know what I'm saying? And we've just said it and repeated it. But that's not fair because you're teaching your kid that it's not okay for them to be who they are. It's not okay for them to be seen. And that's just not true because then they dim their light and then they wonder how to be themselves when they become mature adults. Because all this time they've been told that themselves was not worth attention. Themselves did not deserve to be seen. Themselves have to tiptoe. It should not be. Anyway, like I said, this is not to lay blame. This is just to show root cause, to show origin, right? And so, because I knew I was going to share this, and because I am a like, but why kind of person, then I have to look at the but why. You know, not just that I have it. Self-criticism and judgment. I know someone who grew up in a household where their mother was super conscious about people looking at their butts. And she would be like, cover your butt, put your shirt down. But this kid, my friend, had a big butt anyway. Like, it was just naturally big. So you are telling her that something is wrong with her, that her butt should not be seen, but it's really nothing she can change because this is how you birthed her. So then she gets to grow up with this insecurity about her butt, and then look at now, people paying for asses like hers. But this wound is already there. This wound where she judges herself. This wound where she criticizes herself because her mother used to ask her to hide this trait. Right? So anyway, shadow work. Asking yourself, who has influenced your emotions? Who's influenced your emotions? Think about something that you don't believe in, but your family may believe in it. Like, part of my family is strongly anti-homosexual. And it's so funny because I have so many gay friends. Like, so many of them. And I just love everybody, and I encourage everybody to be themselves. And that's probably a result of feeling like I could not always be myself. But, and I'm so empathic. So everybody and anybody is drawn to me, period. That's just been my life, right? So, I don't talk about homosexual people. Seeing someone walk around in that homosexual energy does not make me uncomfortable. It does not make me uncomfortable for you to be you, right? So it's like if I look up and like, ooh, what is wrong with them? And you know in your head that's not who you are, then you have to ask yourself, where did that belief come from? Where did that thought come from? Because that don't match my personality. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, who has influenced your emotions? The relationships that you've witnessed. Are you scared to love? Are you distrusting of men? Like I touched on single parents previously. They tend to, especially if they end up having to do the situation alone for a long time. So their fear of commitment or their lack of trust or expecting the worst in a connection or for the failure of a connection is going to show up in the kid that they're raising. Just because they make comments like, oh, men ain't shit. Or these hoes, that's how women do. So while the parent is just saying these things in passing, which I don't think my mom didn't really do that. But I'm just speaking example wise. But Meanwhile, you're just saying it in passing. Your kid is hearing these things. Your kid is internalizing these beliefs. Did you know that ancestral and karmic patterns repeat themselves for up to 7 generations? So if you come from a homophobic family, it's probably something that his parents learned, and their parents, and their grandparents, and their great-grandparents. And it goes on and on and on until what? Until we, living right now in this age of Aquarius, decide to come along and break that freaking pattern. And decide to, goosebumps, break that pattern. And decide to teach our children to be accepting of anybody and loving of anybody, no matter what their race is. No matter what their gender is. We teach our children to not be such harsh critics, to not be so judgmental, to not be that they don't have to be controlled or dictated their every little step. We teach our children to do things differently, and it breaks the curse. Oh, that's powerful, y'all. So yeah, some other things that came up for me was receptivity, creativity, nurturing. Those things are all explored there. But receptivity, being able to receive love, right? Or not even being able to, because everybody's able to, but trusting that it's okay. And that even though my mom was in an environment where and we have talked about this previously too, I really don't feel like she was supported. Like some of the stuff we have talked about, it pisses me off for her. Like, pardon my language, but it's like people I don't want to fuck with based on the fact that when we were so young, how they were so unsupportive. Anyway, and then when you feel like you don't have options and you stay in situations, right? But this is stuff that I didn't witness, but I know it to be the fact. Now, she had a couple good family members, so I'm not going to say it like that. But a lot of these people, I was like, how you still cool with them? But she's just a forgiving heart. That's how. Anyway, so relationships which are mutually respectful, healthy communication. If you grow passive as an adult and you're raising a kid, then you're going to teach your child to be passive. If when your child tries to express an opinion that is different from yours, then you are stifling your child's creativity. If your child wants to be on the dance team and you want your child to be an athlete and you push them towards athletics, you're stifling their creativity. All this is going to show up as solar plexus chakra imbalance. Masculine energy versus feminine energy, we kind of tend to have those out of balance when, in honesty, there should be a duality. But a lot of men learn as children to shut their emotions down. So when they develop into adults, they don't know how to express themselves emotionally because all their lives they've been told that they should not be emotional. We tell our children to suck it up, right? All of this stuff is developed there. That is going to affect the way you express yourself. It's going to affect the way you are intimate in connections with people. And intimacy is disclosure. Intimacy is allowing yourself to be vulnerable. But when life experiences and the way you've been raised make you hard and harden your exterior, then that's going to show up as an out of balance chakra. So I'm going to pause for the calls, y'all, because we are 38 minutes in. And, well, yeah, there's just a little bit more I want to say. I might just try to go on. Let me see. What else is there? Codependency here, of course. We touched on that a little bit. Giving and receiving. If you perhaps don't feel like you have anything to offer in return, receiving can make you feel unworthy or undeserved. And you're like, why would they give this to me? So at some point, you develop a response to where you are not requiring anything of people. So you end up in relationships that are unreciprocated, that are unbalanced, right? Inability to ask for help. That develops there based on the experiences you've witnessed. My mom was a strong, independent woman. Alpha women, we tend to have this. you create that in your kids. Let me tell you today something that happened today with Gabriel. My mom fussed at him this morning about something. We were getting ready to go to school. He got ready to go to school. He was like, let me go give me a hug. So he gives her a hug. We get in the car and we driving up the street. We didn't get up the street 2 minutes. And he said, I'm going to make my Gammy happy when I get back home. I was like, what you mean? Like, she mad at you. And it wasn't even like that serious. So what I saw in him was his people pleasing. And I felt so guilty because now I'm trying to figure out how to alter that. And I said, no, you don't have to make her happy because happiness is for her to create in herself. So her being upset with you does not mean she loves you any less. She loves you. She was just upset with you at the time. But you don't have to go back to try to make her happy. You know what I'm saying? So this is where in our kids, people pleasing develops. But if you're aware and you're connected to your children on that level, then you're going to see it. Anyway, what else is developed here? Self-deception. How you lie to yourself, like, oh, it's not this way. That's connected to ego as well. How your fears and your shame, the things that, all of this is developed during that time. Inability to move on from difficult situations. All of this is developed during that time. Self-destructive thoughts and behaviors. Your ability to self-sabotage. All this is developed during that time. So I'm not saying, this is why, one, because of Mercury retrograde, a lot of people are going to feel called to do some reflecting, right? But let me tell you this, once you reflect and you see where it was established, like the root cause of it, if you choose to look that far back, the root cause of it, be sure to look at both yourself and your parents or teachers or whomever you choose to fault for it. Look at them in a compassionate way because there was a reason behind the way that they do or did or learned or expressed or didn't express the things that they did or didn't do or didn't express or expressed, etc. You get what I'm saying? So be sure you look at them compassionately and forgivingly. But once you acknowledge that these issues are yours and these are behaviors and patterns that you exhibit, your next step in shadow work is to be aware of it when it's happening and try to fix it. It's going to become emotional, but it may become emotional if you really sit and feel those feelings. You can cry about it, and once you cry and release it and recognize that you want to change it, honey, your healing is 95% done. Do you hear me? It is 95% done. Guys, anyway, whoo, see, look, we got through that, and I'm not going to even have to do a part 2. So I feel like I was really rushing still, and I hate to do that, but we made it, and we got time. That means Spirit wanted y'all to have all this message. I do not know what the next podcast episode is going to be about, but I just wanted to share this with you guys because I know this is the time, Mercury retrograde. Everybody's doing a little reflecting. Everybody's doing a little healing, but nobody's really telling you how to do it, you know? So, it starts there. It starts with you looking at your patterns. It starts with you asking yourself questions about those patterns, looking at the root cause and where they originated and facing or confronting that. It don't start with, you ain't got to have a fight with nobody. And you really, even if you do decide to have a discussion with your parents, I had a friend who told me once this journey started that I would probably end up cutting my mom off or cutting these people off. But that's the difference between me and you. We don't have to go to those extremes. We can discuss it and reframe the boundaries of our connection. Once she knows once she knows that this is how I feel and that this is who I am now and these things are not okay, you either respect it or you don't. So if you have to distance yourself, that may be necessary, but it is not mandatory. Just choose to stabilize the relationship for the people that you are at this point and the places that you want your relationship to go, right? Ooh, I'm so glad I got all that out, y'all. And my stomach feels so much better. Damn. But all right, thank you guys for joining me. Stay tuned. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and let me know if any of this resonated with you. Thanks. Bye-bye.